this popped up on my Facebook this morning, and I thought it was very interesting. Basically, I don't know if you saw that thing on the guy's head.
No.
Oh, yeah.
It picks up, according to MIT, they've created this device which picks up the neuromuscular patterns when you think of verbalizing words, so it can read what you're saying without you having to actually physically say it.
This is the thing that Elon Musk is proposing. He can put something in your brain so it will remember everything for you.
I don't want
remember
anything
that
I don't want him to put anything in my brain.
That'd be crazy.
You don't have to worry about memories anymore. It picks it all up for you, puts it in your
Yeah.
brain, and when you think about it, it
But
comes
let's
straight
be
back.
honest, once they put something in your brain, they're probably putting something else to actually get information out for
Yeah.
advertising and
course.
things like that.
Oh, planting advertising
mad.
seeds in your head.
So
I'll
what
have one of those
products do more-
boxes at the bottom, right? It says, "Do not click this box if you do not want to not have our technology."
Yeah.
It's not this in your brain. You're like,
Oh my god.
what do I do?
Man, I've never even thought about the concept of them putting advertising,
That's
seeding it
crazy.
into your thoughts,
No,
and that is
Yeah, but
exactly
they
what
could
they would
use your
do.
thoughts against
like
you.
what products you want to be purchasing and things like that, and
Mm.
try to
Well, yeah, I
guide
mean,
you in a certain direction.
If you look at any social medias or anything like that, which are basically our thought streams that are put into the internet now,
I actually refuse to
the
go on
whole
Facebook these days.
the whole basis is advertising, isn't it?
Yeah.
So surely that's what would happen with the thought stream as well.
Yeah.
They would sell advertising space.
Yeah.
I've
That's
never
crazy.
processed that
Is this
before.
something that's coming in, or we
you
just
saying that has made me like,
speculating?
whoa,
I was speculating,
mind blown.
It's
Elon Musk is saying it's coming.
coming.
well,
Oh, really?
but I'm pretty sure you have a choice if you want to put it into your head.
Some people have already started. I was watching a doco
Well,
on some people that have
Have you
already
seen
started.
the what's the
implanting.
name?
Or was that on Black Mirror?
Well, we
What?
we say there's a choice. Think it'll be? Do you think it'll be a common practice in the future where just as you're born, done?
Oh,
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 God.
like a dog microchip.
like that movie, the
Oh,
time
yeah,
thing where your
it's like
time runs
something
out.
that
Oh,
they'd
no,
start.
isn't it a Minority
yeah.
Report?
No,
Where they actually
We're not
can
recording
no.
read your
Oh,
thoughts,
yeah. Oh.
and if you think something
Yeah,
bad,
that'd
they're
be
gonna arrest you.
scary.
That's
That'd be a
scary.
scary.
That's a good point, though. And basically, how long have we been talking? 47 minutes. We haven't started.
Oh God, come on, let's go. Max, do you want to start us off with your article on the poo train?
The poo train.
What?
So there's a small town in Alabama where basically, I think there was a law was passed in New York where they can no longer dump their sewage anywhere. So it's human feces are now being put on trains and they're sent down to places like Alabama. And the idea is they take them into like a big center where they deal with this and they treat it. But because it's like, for whatever reason, I'm not really too sure, the train has been parked outside of the place for like a long time now, and it's been there for 2 months. And all the people in this town, there's 900 people population, so a small town, no one cares about them, and it absolutely stinks of poo.
Well, I think
Human
the mayor
poo.
said it was like rotting, like people dying, like it smelled like death.
Yeah,
she
someone
says.
said, "Oh my goodness, it's just a nightmare here. It smells like rotten corpses or carcasses. It smells like death."
I heard about this on the Trevor Noah show.
Oh, you heard about
Yeah.
it? What did
Really?
he say?
Oh, I'm trying to remember now.
Can we get first? Can we get all the poop jokes out of the way? Anyone got any poop
You
jokes?
got a lot?
I already said my one.
I don't have any.
That's a shitload of.
I don't know what happened. Did it just break down?
No, but
Or
No,
it's-
it's
the driver quit.
it's a few kilometers away from where it needs to be, but it can't. Like they're having trouble processing so much poo, basically, so they can't let it in.
Oh my goodness, these poor residents. It's right next to one of their little football fields as well, like where they play like little kickers or something like that.
Hey, at least
Yeah.
they definitely have home ground advantage.
That's true.
When you come from a different town there,
Yeah.
you're playing that shit field.
But apparently, yeah, you were right. Like they're saying, all like loads of waste from other states for years has been going into just the South and Alabama and all that, and they just dump into this huge. At one point, I think they said they were taking.
Tons and tons.
Oh, what was the number? 800,000 tons of hazardous waste annually. Because it's not only just poop and stuff that they get rid of there. It was
Urine?
like hazardous coal or like all this toxic.
Where are they?
toxic
Where are they
chemicals.
actually dumping this? Is there like a facility, or is
Yeah.
it? What are they just
No,
grabbing
I
bucket
think it's-
loads and putting it down the toilet?
I
What-
thought it was
That's-
in
that's a shit job,
landfill.
Stuart.
You get the bucket and you throw it in. You get the bucket.
It's,
You throw
yeah,
it in.
it is landfill, but it's a
Yeah.
landfill which is like specially made for sewage. So it will be treated, and anything which is harmful will be let out. And then I know how normal landfills work, but I'm not sure if with these ones they leave it in the ground or then they try and like sort of spread it out and use it as like fertilizers and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think you can use human.
No, you can't use human waste as a fertilizer.
Not human.
Oh, is that human?
Yeah, it's human.
Yeah, this is human waste. I don't get. So, did they literally just pour this human waste into these trucks? Like,
Okay.
there's no lining of the trucks; it's just poured into there. Like, how do they clean it out?
That's a shit job.
Like, that's one of those worst. Like, what's
These
that
jokes
pro-
don't keep coming.
what's that program? Like, World's Worst Jobs or something like that. Have you seen that?
So, yeah, I don't. So wait. Maybe I wasn't paying attention. So they,
Okay, in New York,
yeah,
there was a problem with some sewage, right?
Yep.
They're getting too much.
so they sucked it out.
So they're pumping it into these trains, which were going to Alabama. This train has stopped in a quiet town, and now Charleston was
Yeah,
like,
but
shit.
how did they? Like, is it through a
Probably a
sucker
pump.
truck? Oh,
Do you
right.
know? Do you know where your sewage goes now?
Yep.
Down my
Where?
pipe.
Oh, yeah. No, I flush. I don't know where it goes from there.
Yeah, but when you flush your toilet, depending on where you are, like the sewage system takes it somewhere and it normally gathers it locally, and then how you treat it from then onwards, it used to just go in the sea. Like it used to be pumped into the sea.
Yeah.
And a law has been passed to stop that from happening. So now they have to take it somewhere to treat it. And rather than treat it in New York, where it's very dense and lots of
population.
people, and it costs a lot of money to do it there, they're sending it. It's much cheaper for them to send it all the way down the country to these states where they got loads of space and they're charging like cheap rates to treat it because it's giving them good business basically. So that's why they're chucking it all down that where there's less density of population and it's easier to find planning permission and whatever else to have it.
So that's around
obviously
the world.
No,
That's around the
just,
world.
just in New York.
No. What I'm saying is, like, it goes to a certain point, and then you suck it out of there, or you take it, and then they transport it to a bigger plant. Is that what happens?
I guess if there's just no space in their area.
See,
Depends.
maybe.
I'd imagine for all big cities they have to do something like that.
So-
But smaller places they can just have it like so it just naturally, or say naturally, like gravity takes it to where it needs to go and then they can treat it there. I don't know enough, but that's like
Yeah, I guess you
My,
don't, you don't
take.
think about where all the shit, like all the rubbish goes. You don't think about it. Like you
I've
put it.
seen shows like where someone has to get suited up in a big like, one of those big tank, like big glass
like a hazmat. suit.
hazmat thing with the whatever, all like layers and layers, and goes down because it's blocked, and he has to go down in the sewage, and it's like pitch black, and he's trying to like wipe away so he can see and
Actually-
like
actually did
clear
that
out
when I
the
was
blockage. Have you
19.
seen that?
I did that when I was 19.
What do you mean?
I got a job as a casual cleaning pipes up near Fairfield.
What
You
did
clean
have
the
to do?
pipes.
Yeah, it was terrible. I came out the tunnel throwing up.
Oh,
So you had to like get suited up.
Yeah, and you go in like this hadn't been used in about a few years. They'd cut it off, and they had did like a water clean of it because it was a blockage. So you had to go in there and try to get the blockage out.
Yeah.
So a few guys went down, but these guys did it every day. I was there for like my second week, and I've just gone straight back up, mate.
Oh,
I think that was my
man.
first and last day.
You get paid a lot for that, right?
Not enough.
That's crazy.
Even Garbos, like if they
That was some
Man.
good money.
You might want to change the lingo from Aussie so that other people know what a garbo is.
Oh,
yeah.
garbage
What's,
collectors.
what's a garbo?
the people that collect your garbage, the
Oh,
garbage truck,
garbage.
the garbage truck,
oh, of course.
the
Garbo.
garbo.
Garbo. Yeah,
Yeah, look,
makes sense.
Aussie lingo. We need to do a segment on that.
I've seen one on YouTube.
That stinks. Even that
Mm.
job stinks.
Yeah,
Yeah, but they're on good money,
Well,
they are on good money.
and there should be.
Yeah, but they've
That
got
would be
they've got a trap door to keep the smells in.
It's not like England. I don't know if it's changed, but there you have lots of men, and then They all get off the truck and go and
Yeah.
manually bring the bin to the
I think
thing.
they've got that in the city still because
Yeah.
Do they?
there's no
There's not
room
enough room.
there's not enough.
Whereas
room for the
here, they've
trucks.
got electric arms. They just drive,
Yeah, but we're in
drive
the
up,
West.
boop, picks up the thing with the electric arm. No one
Oh
gets
yeah,
off
we
the
don't have
truck.
that.
What don't we have?
We have men who get out and
What
bring
do you
the.
What do you say you have then? If we don't have men,
We have electric
if we
arms.
don't have.
We got
We have
the
an
mechanical
electric
arms.
robotic arm that
We're a lot
comes
more
out the
lazy in
side of the
Australia.
truck, and it like just grabs the bin and lifts the bin up and just dumps it like it's just
But basically
Whoa.
like that. This is the electric arm.
literally like that. No one gets out of the truck. I think there's only one person in the truck.
Yeah.
And
It's just
two.
one driver.
There's
No,
one
there's
person.
two.
Is it
There's
two?
one guy at the back because sometimes the bins they can't get to them, so they have to move them.
And then when the electric arm puts the bin down, a lot of the
It
times
breaks it.
they just they're still going because they don't want to stop. These garbage trucks, they're on a mission, so they're like slowly pick it up, still moving, put it down, still moving, bin falls down.
Just like popcorn.
Just like that.
My popcorn.
See, like you had the side table
no.
there.
I knew I shouldn't be in that. That was fate.
So, with waste in general, like whatever kind of waste it is, we typically, as you said, Dev, like we don't know where it's going. Do you think? Do you think that's so that they can do practices that we don't know about, or do you think
Such
it's
as?
just because there's no need to know?
Why would you
When I
want?
say
Why would you want to go through it?
talking about like from a business standpoint,
Mhm.
like for example, the meat industry. There's a lot that goes into how we get packaged meat, but we're not. That's something that's new information in terms of relatively it
Mhm.
coming out through documentaries or whatever, because they know if everyone was very conscious of exactly what it took to get meat on our plates, most people wouldn't eat the meat that goes on our plates.
Oh man.
Even after this conversation,
Yeah.
you're worrying me.
After watching a documentary, you watch it and you don't have meat for
We
the
don't
next.
buy beef anymore.
Yeah,
You don't buy beef anymore.
No, it's bad for the environment, isn't it, Dev?
Yeah, because of the methane.
Yeah, yeah.
And we
so
don't buy fish
same
anymore.
thing with waste. Do you
But-
think that they have best practices for waste that are, in the sense, detrimental to society, psychological, like?
But how would they tell
you
us?
get what
I
I'm
can't
saying?
imagine tuning into watching a waste program, for example.
Well,
No,
actually,
but you could
there
be
is a
educated
program
on it,
called
just
War
like
on
you get
Waste.
educated on anything else. Like we
Yeah, yeah.
don't, we're never educated on this. Like when you're in school, you don't learn about
Yeah, you're right.
where, like that's something that every human,
Well,
no matter who you are, contributes to, but we have
100%
no
right.
idea what happens to it.
The waste and recycling
Yeah, maybe.
industry generates
Maybe.
more than $93 billion in gross revenue annually.
It generates $93 billion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
waste and
You,
recycling
you know
industry.
the
God,
fish and chip shops
wrong
in
industry.
England, or
Yep.
That's only
anywhere,
in
right?
America.
They have these
Okay.
I'm a bit of shit train driver.
the grease trucks. Have you seen the grease trucks around? So
Nah.
they're the ones that if you after a while, you know all the gunk that happens from the takeaway shops, they come around and they suck it all out. That's massive business
Okay.
here.
Did you know per sort of cubic meter, there's more gold in sewage than there is in a lot of
Yes.
gold mines.
I heard this. Where did we hear this?
That bit thinking that fish. What is
No
it?
such thing as a fish
No, in,
podcast. That's why I
Yeah,
heard it
that
from.
was it.
In
Yeah, that's where I heard that one.
Sweden or Switzerland.
Switzerland they were speaking about.
Yeah, Switzerland. They've got like all this gold like in their
Poop.
sewage. What is it
Like
from
a lot.
again?
Vodka.
Oh,
In
because of the
Switzerland
gold
where
watches.
they spoke about it, but they talk about like there's a lot of gold there, but it's
It's the
just
gold
really
watches.
expensive to filter it out because
Yeah.
how
'Cause
do you
they-
just pick the gold out and nothing else?
Because they're like one of
And
the
who
world's
does that?
biggest manufacturers of those gold. What is it? What does Switzerland produce?
It was something like they
Fish-
plunged $2
fish
million
washer?
worth of gold a year or something.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
but it's what's
Yeah,
the
I'll
watch
be
that they
picking it up
make?
for like $2 billion a year. I'll be trying to filter it somehow.
I
That's a
think
shitload of money.
I can't laugh at every single shit joke.
Ernest to get all the
Shit
shit jokes out of the way
joke.
now, and they're all coming naturally now.
With that article, I actually think this was from earlier on in the year because I've just picked up another one that says it's actually been cleared. So what happened is, so it was about 10 million pounds of human waste were on the train that came from waste management facilities in New York. train was supposed to go through Jefferson County, but the town of West Jefferson obtained an injunction, arguing in court that the loading and unloading of containers violated its zoning laws. So that's why it had to stop. Yeah.
So you got to think, like, down there where they were taking it to, is it that beneficial to their economy that the mayor doesn't want to say, well, let's put legislation in so we can't have it here? Like, obviously it's bad, but they're willing to take that hit
Well,
for some reason.
I don't know, but they've set a goal now to have sending zero waste to landfills by 2030
So where are they going to send it?
as part of its long-term
Yeah.
strategy. Don't know.
Because it has to go somewhere.
We use it somehow.
Oh,
But is that waste or sewage? Is that
Sewage.
are they
It just
classed
says
as the
zero
same?
waste.
I don't think they can stop. They have a Portaloos.
nah, but like even with all sewage, mate, it has to go somewhere.
But that's what I'm saying. But they're saying stop the transport of. Isn't that what they're saying?
Now they want to stop transporting it
It
that
says
way.
New York City set a goal of sending zero waste to landfills by 2030.
That's New York. So other cities won't be.
These poor residents in Parrish, Alabama. This one guy
Their,
said
their
he, can't,
property prices fell
he
hard.
said he can't have barbecues anymore.
Of course.
And when he opens his door, all the flies come in.
Some.
Can I ask you?
It's
Do you
not
know where
funny,
your
is it?
tip is? Do you know where your local tip is?
Where it is?
Yeah.
I know where it is.
Alabama.
Yours is close to
Um,
you, Alexander.
Ours will be close to us, but I'm new to the area, so no, I don't know. I did know before.
Yeah, I knew before my old place. I don't know where it is in Oslo, in Norway.
I'm just curious.
Why?
I'm about to Google.
Just curious.
Last time I went there with my mum, and we were nearly vomiting,
Oh, not that Seven Hills one.
and it was just the recycling.
That's the
place.
recycle. That's not the local tip.
The smell, Dev.
But
Yeah.
but that's not.
All right,
That's not the local. That's recycling.
Oh,
Emma, remember where we grew up,
chicken.
just near Facenders? Remember that smell, the Facenda
Oh.
smell?
Oh Lord. Oh
But-
goodness gracious.
Do you remember that we got used to it though because we lived there?
Yeah.
Like,
Like, how did we
people
get
would
used
come
to
Oh,
over
that?
you
and
the
comment.
stinky kids.
And he froze at the time as well.
Look at his face.
And he's frozen
Okay,
like
this is Maxie's face because you're frozen. You're the stinky kids.
Boo. I'm
And
frozen now.
what?
Oh man.
We actually did get used to that.
Yeah.
We lived near a chicken place where they actually slaughtered the chickens. Like you'd see them come in by the lorry load, live chickens, and enter not live, and they're the place that supplied to KFC all across the country. And it was literally right across the road. I'd probably say about 1,000 meters from us, maybe.
Yeah.
And at certain points during the year, if the wind was facing the right direction, quite often we'd get the smell of the chickens, dead chicken. It was disgusting. I don't know how they
Yeah,
sold
but
that
we
house.
would get like when the wind started coming our direction, like we'd be like, Facenda again.
Yeah.
But then very quickly we get used to it. Like
But
people
you'd
would
shut
come
those
over and
windows.
comment
You're like,
on
all
it.
right, smell's coming.
Like,
Let's shut the
oh,
windows
yeah.
now.
Get used to it.
This is a
So
weird thing.
wonder-
Like we're happy with this if we can't see it, right?
Yeah.
Or if you can't smell it or anything else.
Yeah.
Like, oh, cool. But as soon as it comes into your like immediate environment, you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
this isn't like,
Yeah,
this isn't right.
Yeah.
But
it's
you only
not
think that when
fair.
it's in your immediate
That's right.
environment.
totally.
Yeah.
Because there's a one where near Amsterdam, they built this little town or this city, which was meant to be like the perfect city where they had like residential areas in one place, work areas in another place, and they tried to make it. It was in the 70s. Can't remember the actual name of it, like Mek or something. And what happened was they built this town, but it just didn't take off. Like it didn't work the way they built it, and people couldn't integrate. So they had a lot of immigrants come over from somewhere in Africa, I think, which wasn't used to having apartments like that and wasn't used to having like high-rise buildings. So they're at the top with all this waste, and they didn't know they were going to put it in the bin and then take it down somewhere. So they just chucked it off their balconies,
Oh,
and they were just like rubbish all over the floor because people didn't know how to deal with it. But for us, when you're in that civilization, like we don't know where all this rubbish is going, so we don't care how much it builds up, and we, where they might care a little bit more because it's outside their front door. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's we don't have that. We don't have a relationship with our waste
No.
once it's past our front door. It's gone.
yeah. Does
Which is
everybody
outside
recycle
our
here?
mind.
How about when you do a number
Same here.
2 and then it clogs
I
up,
feel
What?
and you plunge it to get it out. You know, and you're like, what do I
Hey,
do?
Ernest, why are you doing this on camera for, mate?
yuck.
Yeah, he plunges.
What's your point, Dev?
I just came in my head. I don't know what happened. Just came in my. Sorry.
You're
Emma's
okay.
face.
Me and CJ were talking about a nice conversation about recycling, weren't we?
Yeah.
I said, does everybody recycle here?
Yep.
Yeah, well, we have to by law.
I think you have it better in the UK. I think UK is just more conscientious about that. We're trying to head that way, but I told you about the issue with the plastic bags the other day.
No,
but
I think Australia is very conscious. It depends on the council that you're on, because they've reduced the actual size of the waste bin in some councils, and they've made the recycling bin
Bigger.
quite
Bigger,
big, and
yeah.
also the green bin where you do your lawns, you know,
Your
all
grass.
the grass and stuff. They've actually made that big as well. So I think Australia are conscious. It's just
I don't
depending
think
on
the
the.
general population are that conscious.
A lot of people are.
I think the younger generation are.
Depends on the environment you're in, it's like the type of people you're with. Because
Yeah.
when I work as a consultant, so that means I work with people quite high and in the railways, and then I also go to the depots and work with like the people that are the mechanics working on the trains. And in all the offices I go to, there's always recycling. But then when I go to like these depots and I ask if they have recycling, they're like, no, we don't do that. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like some people are very conscious about that kind of thing, and other people, and I don't think it's like an individual thing. I think it's actually more like a social circle. Some social circles are like,
Yeah, the social
I'm not
culture,
bothered about this, and other social circles are more, into it.
Yeah, like I feel I can't bear to see a piece of plastic in the bin and I'll pull it out and I'm like, who's put this yogurt pot in the bin?
Yogurt pot.
But then,
Who are you saying that to? Because you work at home.
well, some stuff Dev's
She's looking in-
having
she's
to
looking in the
clear
mirror
out
the same
in
place
his
as-
room, and I'm like, why is this there?
I don't even have yogurt. I can't have. I'm lactose intolerant.
That's why you're in the toilet doing this all the time.
It makes sense now.
Damn,
Yogurt and then the
weird.
plunging.
Damn yogurt.
So, which way are we going now? Emma's Guinness record one.
I don't know much about it, to be honest. It's actually nothing to sort of
What-
introduce.
Alex, you're read up on this, aren't you, with your book?
You saw that I was walking through Scarborough Town, and I saw the book in the window. I was like, "Oh, this is convenient."
Did you buy it?
Oh,
Oh, that would have been good.
just for one episode of the podcast.
Investment.
But I
Don't
will.
worry, we'll get our
Tradition that
advertising
my younger
and we'll
brother
send
got
you
the
back
book
the money.
every year.
What?
Oh, really?
Yeah,
How
every
long did you go for?
Christmas, he always got the book. It's a perfect like Christmas gift for nephew or something. You know, you don't know him.
It?
I have a Guinness World Book of Records book.
What
You
year?
say book again? Guinness World Book of Record book.
Said that 3 times.
Guinness World Book of Record book. So this next article is just the Guinness World Records 2019. Apparently there's some weird and wonderful world records been going on. So have you guys heard of any?
There was one on there which was somebody balanced a guitar on their forehead for 7 minutes and 9 seconds. I
did
think
see that actually.
with a bit of practice, I could beat that.
Yeah. Me too, to be honest with you. It doesn't sound like that'd be hard.
No, he was balancing the small end of the guitar on his forehead.
Okay, that's different.
Yeah.
I'd hurt myself.
No, but even so, like I used to mess around with that with rune sticks and stuff when I worked in a warehouse. That was quite good.
Were you?
7 minutes good, mate.
The B-side's getting his first world record.
Look, we'll
Do
put
you think
in
it's
as
sad
long
though that you can have like this guy balancing a guitar on his head? He probably just woke up one day and was like, "Oh, I reckon I might be able to beat that record just like I did." And you got someone like Usain Bolt who trains his whole life to be a great sprinter, and they're both in the same book.
Oh my god, that is so funny. Well, so let's see.
How long?
We
Wait,
had-
You
wait,
got
wait.
a list.
Wait. How long has he been doing? Maybe he's been training his whole life for that.
Who trains the whole life for that?
Well, there
Like,
was
who
that
wakes
kid-
up one morning, like, as a child, and his parent goes, "Hey, mate, Do you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna balance a guitar on your head, and that is gonna be your skill set.
No, there's some
That's some
there's
terrible
kids that are
parenting.
like very talented at some weird things, like the bubble kid. I think I was talking about the other week, where he can make bubbles just with his hands and soap and water,
What?
whatever
I was
it
gonna
is.
say,
But
just
he'll,
with his
he'll
hands.
just go like this, and it's like a massive bubble, and then he'll somehow put like powder in it, and when the bubble bursts, it like this kid's like
Oh, that was on what was that
7
show?
or 8 year
What
old,
was that show?
like Little Big Shots
Little Big Shots.
on
Little
TV.
Big Shots.
Wow.
And some of these world records, we've got longest time controlling a soccer ball with the soles whilst on the roof of a moving vehicle.
Okay.
So imagine this: he's lying down on the car on the rooftop whilst it's moving, feet in the air, controlling a controlling a ball with his feet. Like, what the hell?
Wow.
Who decides these?
What was the
And-
time?
7 minutes.
93
93
seconds.
seconds.
Can we find out what criteria you need? What's the criteria to go into this book? What
I
what
think
do you?
it can be anything as long as you can do. Like, it could literally be anything.
What's the
The,
criteria? Like, it
You have to be-
doesn't
Well,
say
that-
under criteria anything. Literally
Oh,
anything.
I'll have a little look now.
I think you'd have to have the adjudicator no matter what it was. Like they have to have someone sent out to it.
Yeah.
So like on Britain's Got Talent last year, I think it was, they had a dog popping balloons, and they had a Guinness Book of Records judge on stage at the
Animal
show.
ones are crazy. This one is most dice balanced on cat's paws.
Oh God.
That was
I feel so
impressive.
for these
I'm not gonna
animals.
lie.
The Malaysian cat managed to balance 9 dice on its paws. On its one paw. I think on its one paw.
Yeah, there's a picture.
That
of-
one's
have you
that's a
seen the
good
picture?
record.
I don't know if I could balance 9 dice in my hand.
That's crazy. Largest knitting needles. I think it nearly took up the whole of her room, right? British resident Betsy has knitting needles measuring 14 feet.
God, poor Betsy.
I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do with this information.
Just to be honest,
Neither do I.
What do I do with this?
I feel
I
sorry
do
for
have
Betsy.
an
to be honest.
interesting question on it.
All right, go.
Go on.
So I've got one here. I'll read it to you. Go. America U.S. resident Donald A. Gorsk consumed his 26,000th McDonald's Big Mac on October 11th, 2012, after 40 years of eating Big Macs on a daily basis. So this guy, I'm assuming, got to a point where he was like, oh, I'm obviously eating a lot of Big Macs, like, let me make something out of this. And he's gone out of his way. Well, I think, I would assume, he's gone out of his way to do something extremely unhealthy purely to live in this book. It's kind of like we're talking about doing things to live on the internet. Like, there are a lot of world records that people have spent a lot of time and invested into just to have a world record. Is that like a healthy thing,
No.
a healthy mindset for people to be in? And
Well,
It's
what
a
about
we-
focus. They have a focus. They have a goal. I
Yeah.
guess that's okay, right?
I mean, that's definitely a goal,
but
but what
eating
about
26,000 Big Macs, do you think that's a
not
good
not
goal
not in
for someone?
not in that instant. No. But like to have a focus is it's a good to have that mindset.
I don't
Have a
know. I mean, your focus could be mass murdering. I mean, it's
Oh
not really.
God! Like there's a spectrum, right? And you guys have chosen to go completely to the right. Like there's no leeway.
Is there a Guinness
either,
Book
it's either
record of,
zero
most
or
murders?
like mass murder. Like you've got.
But okay, so when you look in the Guinness World Records, has everyone here ever looked in the book? Like, just ever
Not-
picked one up and
not-
just panned through
Oh,
it?
in the past, yeah.
Yeah, in the past,
So you've seen the types of things that, like, there's a lot of weird and wonderful things in there.
longest nails,
Do you think?
human nails.
Yeah.
The longest nails. Oh gosh, the longest nails.
The
Someone just cut
furthest-
them. He just cut them recently.
Did he?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes. I'll try and find it. Yeah.
But you're going to show me a picture of cut nails now?
Hey, mate. Just done.
Wow.
Those nail ones are just are awful. Yeah, 82-year-old from India had been growing his nails since 1952, but has now cut them for the first time since he was a teenager. He's 82.
But, like, that makes me want to ask the
Oh.
questions. Like,
Oh, that's disgusting.
like, how did he pee?
He had to roll them up. He's rolled them up and put like, you know,
it
that
was only
electrical
one
tape
hand.
or
It was only
something?
one hand.
No,
Only one
that
hand.
hand's down and that hand's there. Look, they're coming off that hand.
Yeah, where's the other hand's got?
He's rolled them into a ball.
Oh, I don't know how he wiped.
So
like, how did he go to the bathroom with those nails?
Oh, look.
the
what
question for me would be why? Like, if you're willing to cut them at 82 years old, why did you grow them until you were 82 years old? Like, what was going through his mind that day to go,
Might
you
get
know
away
what?
with his
He's
life
met a
now.
young lady that says you got
No,
nice
because
nails.
he was told off at the age of 14 by his teacher for accidentally breaking his long nail.
How
Ooh.
heavy are those nails, do you think?
Oh,
What are they? What are they the same as teeth?
No.
What
The
what?
same as teeth?
No, like
Oh,
Teeth for
there's
teeth.
no
Density
feeling in
wise.
them.
I know what you're saying.
But at
Yeah,
that
are
age,
they-
wouldn't there be nerves that are growing?
They're-
Why? Do you know how much teeth weigh?
no. I'm saying no, I don't know. Well, no. I'm just trying to. I don't know.
Oh, it was one hand.
Because they're supposed to be very dense. I don't know what material. I don't know what you want to call it.
Yeah, but they get really soft when they're like 190 centimeters long, and they just dangle.
Nah, but
100
after
that's
time,
nearly as
you're
tall as me.
hardened.
197
That's taller than
centimeters
me.
was his thumb, and that's why he had
Imagine
to coil
having
it
meat
round and
dangling
round.
off your hand.
That's taller than all of us, but you, Alex.
That's
Yeah,
just his
I'm
thumb.
only just 195.
I'm 187. They're
What?
190.
God, I'm
Nah.
short.
197.
Me and CJ put together are 190.
I'm 169 and a half.
Oh, that height. There was another record I saw where the world's tallest dog jump. He jumped. I think it was about 190 to 2 meters.
No way.
I think it was 2 meters actually. 'Cause I think it was just taller than me.
It's,
so they could
it
have been
says
a double
75.5 inches. What's that?
Yeah, because I'm 7. What am I? 60.
Quick maths.
No, it's not even quick. This is terribly slow. 72.
Mhm.
I'm 76 inches.
Oh, okay.
76. So it's just shorter than me. Dog jumping that high.
Wow.
For any listeners out there, Alex is a very tall basketball player.
6'5". So
How about 6'5"?
yeah.
195
What-
centimeters.
What's your best
77.
vertical jump, Alexander? You know how they jump on top of those mats?
Can
or
you do
those...
6 meters?
6 meters, Emma.
You mean
If he could have been
your
in the
house is probably
Olympics,
6 meters.
He'd be playing for
Did I
someone.
say I'm bad at maths?
he would win the gold every 4
Never
years.
told you guys that.
Emma, this is a meter. This is a meter. 6 of them.
6 feet.
No, the highest box jump I recorded I think was 52,
What's that?
but that's
He jumped on the box. That was 50.
box jump 52 inches, which
52 inches.
48 inches is 4 feet. So 4 feet 4.
How tall are you, Dev?
5'7".
He almost jumped mine and your height.
Yeah,
I'm
But
thinking.
that's like picking up my legs, landing on the box.
Yeah, that's still impressive.
Is that
Don't-
from a
don't-
stationary jump? Like stationary stand? Whatever you call it?
Yeah.
The intro to the show Ballers has a guy jumping like from stationary, like a 6, I was going to say meters again, 6 feet.
Yeah, he
The
jumped
impressive
over.
one is when they do it out of a pool,
What?
where people jump like they're standing in a pool, swimming pool, and they jump out onto the side.
Wow,
No.
that is impressive.
No
Let's
way.
look it
I
up.
don't even
Yeah, I need-
believe
look it
it.
up.
I
Look it
need-
up.
I
don't
need to see
believe
that.
Look it up. I want to see this.
I've got you.
Look at.
That's
Let's look
crazy.
this up. That is ridiculous.
Jumping out of a pool.
The only thing I
Is
can.
there water in the pool?
I've never ever measured that
Yes,
box
there's
jump.
water in the
I've
pool.
never ever
Just making
measured
sure.
box jump. But in primary school, I'm pretty sure I was only like 4 foot. I was short, but I won high jump.
You still are, mate.
I I jumped my height. It was weird.
Yeah?
I jumped my height.
That's
Like
weird.
the teachers were like, the teachers were very impressed.
So they could
Why-
jump 3
Are you,
feet.
are you recalling this correctly?
I came first.
You know how everything seems bigger when you're small?
Well, when I went up to the actual like the rod, that stick,
Yeah.
that stick, I was like up to my eyes. Like
Ooh, that's pretty good.
haters
I
in
used
my
to do high
review.
jump too, Devin.
I mean, you look at the high jump in athletic events, Olympics or whatever. They're jumping way taller than me, like over 2 meters. The women are getting
That's
2 meters.
crazy.
About that,
Women.
That's crazy.
yeah, women
Ooh.
high jump when you do where they're doing Frosby flop over it.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah.
Like they're getting,
Oh,
I think the
haven't
women
heard
get
that
to
word
about 2
since
meters.
school. Frosby flop.
Frosby flop.
Oh, sounds like a little
That sounds
animated frog.
that sounds like the media
That's-
company we should call ourselves. Frosby flop media.
Frosby flop.
That sounds pretty good.
That was about when they
Frosby
started
flop
introducing
media.
that. When I became bad at high jump, I could never nail it. I used to jump like dive head first over.
Yeah,
Is this what
same.
he said?
No.
Was
Well,
that
that's the
is that
point.
legal?
CJ's
Is that
found one.
legal to jump head first in high
You can
jump?
jump however you want.
Yeah, but that's why they have to
CJ's
introduce
found
the
one
mat on the other
jumping out of
side.
the pool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Frosby. This is the mad thing. When they introduced a Frosby flop, people used to do it. He did it. They used to land on piles of sand.
Oh
Whoa.
right.
And not
Right,
even very
So
big
imagine
piles
doing
when
a
it
Frosby
started.
flop onto a
It was
like
the
What
same
is
as
a
the long
Frosby
jump
flop?
at the beginning, wasn't it? At the beginning, it was the same as the long jump, and then they was like, okay, this is health and safety. Let's put more sand there. And then eventually they put, and then they
Oh
put
my
the
goodness.
mats.
So,
Are you kidding?
What is a Frosby flop?
Where you go like over backwards.
You go
instead of
backwards
the
in the
scissor
high
kick.
jump. You go over backwards.
Oh,
There's a scissor kick,
yeah.
the scissor jump, and then the scissor kick, the scissor jump, and then the Frosby flop.
Is that
What is
word
it
now?
called?
We've said it too much.
Frosby flop.
Frosby. It's like frisbee with an O.
Frosby flop.
You know when you say something too much and you're just like, no, that doesn't sound
It
right.
doesn't sound right.
Did you see
The clever
the
thing about
swimming
that-
pool?
Everything
Sorry,
about that
Max.
Crosby flop is that your center of gravity never actually goes over the bar.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Huh?
So like if you measure like at all times some of your body or over half of your body is below the bar and you sort of just curve around the bar.
Really?
So
That's
you don't the
weird.
force when you talk about like the force it takes you to push up, if the center of gravity goes up at the same rate, like it accelerates up and accelerates back down. Do you know what I mean? So what they try and do is how can I get myself high with the same force, and you have to do it by having some of your body under the bar all the time and just circle around the bar.
What
Quite
I want
clever.
to
You
know
never
is
realised
who
high
made
jump
the
was that
first move
scientific.
to then be like, right, this isn't high enough.
Crosby.
Let's get a pole and
Oh.
let's try and jump over a building.
A building?
Building.
But what?
Oh, it's Superman?
When I say a building, I just mean like the height.
Superman cave.
Who like that? Imagine your first pole jump in your life. That would be scary. That pole
Pole
bends
vault?
all the way back.
To be honest, the whole of the Olympics
It's
is
pretty
it's
scary.
pretty it's pretty like I'll beat you.
Isn't it based on like
I'm gonna race
Yeah.
you now, and I'm gonna. It's like
Isn't it based like on
It
old
would have
Greece?
started off with a
Yeah.
probably with a group of guys who are like, nah, I could jump higher than you.
Yeah,
What?
but imagine like a pole jump.
you
Would you ever
can't.
do that? Would you guys do a pole jump?
I thought they used it to
Pole
attack
vault.
people.
Pole
They ran-
vault?
ran
Not
with a
pole
Pole
jump.
vault. Pole vault.
that wouldn't be pole jumping.
To me, the scariest one by far is the hammer.
Hammer?
The
Why?
hammer throw.
Why?
Because if you don't release that in the right spot, which if you've never done it, how would you know when to release? You're spinning
Yeah.
too fast. That thing's going to hit the cage and come right back at you. I swear.
Oh, what? What's with it?
Oh,
Okay, what's the
Alexander,
next one?
we'll go to your article next, Alexander, about the oxy. Is it okay? Is it ox? Because I always thought it was oxycodone, but is it oxycontin?
Yeah,
Which one?
Oxycontin. Oxycontin. So I'm gonna have to pull up the name of the company because I can't remember
is
it.
that the drug they give you to stop the heroin?
Opioid.
Where are we? Opioids.
Very knowledgeable, CJ.
Purdue Pharma,
You know, it's actually
It's
which
a-
is a company in America. They were the makers of Oxycontin, which is a opioid that was given as medication over the counter, and from that, you get things like heroin and whatnot, and has been responsible now for many years for a crazy amount of deaths that's picking up traction. I believe in America they were saying something like 130,000 or 170,000 people died since 2012 or something like that.
170,000
Have a look at those
people.
numbers for yourself. But
Yeah, it's basically
they've recently been given the patent for their design to treat the addiction levels of OxyContin and opioid related things. So the problem is that people are getting massively addicted to these drugs and it's causing overdoses and deaths. And now this company who has made billions off of their profit for these drugs are now going to make billions off of the treatment for these drugs.
That's
that they
crazy.
create.
That's
So
crazy.
yeah, I think at one
I
stage people were melting it and injecting it,
That's what they're doing.
and it was actually they coated it with something which was actually killing them.
The color.
Now the coating
Oh, the coating.
Of the tablet.
yeah, it was coated with something, and when you melted it, it became hazardous, and they're injecting it straight into your bloodstream.
Oh,
No,
right.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know they're doing that. It's actually the actual medication is used supposed to be just a pain reliever for like
Yeah,
moderate to severe pain, and then they become hooked, and then they
it's
started
quite
doing
addictive.
the melting and
yeah.
injecting.
So do you think the thing is as well, the company has been found for malpractice in terms of they were aware of what they were doing, but were still marketing in such a way to get people addicted to these pills. And now they've been given the go ahead for their treatment. Do you think, given their past, they should be allowed to profit off of this?
No,
No,
did you say they've already been found guilty of that?
Is something happened back in 2007, I want to say, um, where they were in, see if I can find it. They were found to be responsible for
Yeah, they
negative
purposely
marketing.
underplayed how addictive it
Oh, okay.
was going to be. So they sold like a lie to get into the market, knowing
Oh, and they were
the
found guilty
consequences
of
could
that.
be a lot. Yeah, so they made two. They said they made $2 billion as a result of that, like getting through, and they got fined $680 million, like for doing it.
that
But
doesn't make
So
sense.
good business on their part.
That's-
how about
That's
the
just
quality
disgusting.
control? Like, is it the FDA, is it FDA approval and all that kind of stuff? Why didn't all the checks go through before they let it let it onto the market? So
I don't think they would have
Well, it's one of
checked.
those where I guess you need statistical data to determine, like, how do you know something's addictive unless people take it?
but that's what I mean. Why wouldn't they do tests so before they put it to the masses? Why wouldn't they test it for a year or so? Don't they do these?
A lot of tests, like Pfizer, the company, were doing testing in Nigeria, or I think it was Nigeria, somewhere in Africa, and they were testing out their drug on these ill children with without even the consent of the parents,
That's
That's
horrible.
disgusting.
without telling anyone, and so many children died or got like brain like seizures or brain tumors or something from this medication.
I guess with something like OxyContin, if you do test it on groups of people, but you do it as a laboratory experiment in the sense of you're saying this is how much you're going to take because it's supposed to treat X, then they're never going to be. It's not a true use case because they are taking what they're prescribed to take, no more, no extra. They're not behaving as you normally would. Like when someone's prescribed something and they go home and a lot of people, like you have to take a pill a day for 28 days. There'll be people who miss days. There'll be people who take more because they've missed something or whatever. It's not a true use case. And those circumstances, when you get to true use, is where the addiction happens. I'm guessing. I'm not saying that's what happens, but I'm trying to find how you could get through things like FDA approval, even with testing, because it wouldn't show it's laboratory
I,
conditions. It's not.
I wonder if it has to be an independent body that does the testing, or there's some way they've managed to get themselves into that independent body and influence the way they do the testing, like knowing that if we do an experiment in this way, we can hide these results.
Well,
You know, and that's definitely a real thing. And there's a story that came up recently about cigarettes, and in cigarettes, there's in the filters themselves, there's a hole, like some holes sort of pushed into it. And the idea of that hole is when you smoke, the air gets filtered through it, so you're taking the smoke and you're also sucking in some of the like fresh air. And then what? So they put those there for the specific reason that when they use the machines which test the level of nicotine and the level of like the toxins in it, they don't cover the holes, so it gets a lot of fresh air in. But then when you hold a cigarette, you cover the holes,
with
and
your
when you suck it
fingers.
in,
Yeah.
you don't suck the fresh air in. And they know that, so they want to keep people addicted as much as they can, but they also want to pass the regulations.
Oh,
So
that's
they
crazy.
like purposely know how it's been tested, and they
Yeah.
just
Right.
run tests
Well,
and then get it to the market.
that's
So,
like the
I mean, I wouldn't know
honey
how they do it with
scandal.
drugs, but I'm sure it's the same. Like
Yeah.
those drugs.
It's like the honey scandal here, where I think some crazy amount, 3/4 or something of the honey they tested was like was contaminated
Oh,
honey.
right. Yeah, yeah.
But the testing that they used, they had figured out how to get around it, but it was actually sugar syrup
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was made to look and taste like honey. And it was only the
Wow.
new method of testing that picked up that they were all
Yeah.
contaminated honey.
So
But
should
they're
there
like-
should there be transparencies on how they're doing the test then?
Yes.
Is that what we're looking
Yeah,
for?
for sure. But they claim there is. I think that's the problem. I think they claim that it is transparent, but they say like, look, these are all the guidelines that we should have, and then you're like, oh yeah, we agree with that, and then somehow they've got a back door, which is like, because I don't know, because
matter
with
no
drugs
matter what you
especially,
do,
they
it's-
have organisations in place to approve all these things, and the idea is they are transparent, they do all the correct procedures, but obviously there's a way around it.
What I mean is like
Every time you learn about the rules, you can adapt.
Yeah, right. So, but I'm asking like, so you, for the instance of the cigarette, of the airs coming through the buds and stuff. When I mean it's open, is it open to the public for you to view these testing?
What view how
Probably.
it's tested? I mean,
Yeah, viewing, because like for now, right? You came up with how the air it goes into the bud, right? Did you come up with that, or did you read that?
no, I read it in a.
Oh,
What do
okay.
you mean he came up with it?
No, I'm just saying, how if you were watching how they were testing, and you were like, oh, this is not true.
No, not at all.
But I'm saying, like,
No.
how if other people see a different perspective on how people are testing, and they go, hang on a sec.
Well, this is in that story. It was I think it was a group of researchers from a university were looking at the filters and were trying to like figure out why they're in certain ways. And they had the holes, and I was like, what are these holes even for? And then when they contacted the organized like the company and said like, why are these here? They said it's about we try and keep it fresher for the for the cleaner air as you breathe it in. But then they'd done a bit more digging and then found out that that was the case. So they'd done a test of like compared it to what the procedures they have to go through to get it approved. They figured out that it's about 100% more in the sort of independent test they did separately in terms of like how much toxins you actually breathe in. So when you actually breathe it in using your hands, it's about 100% more, like twice as much than it is on the machines that they use for the same cigarette. And then there's some things they claim that when you smoke, you only have one puff a minute.
Yeah.
And then they said, that's not realistic. It should be done 2 or 3 times a minute.
Yeah.
And that would then put it up 2 or 3 times more, So there's those are things which they try and slip under there just to keep themselves within the limit of what you should be allowed to take into your lungs, like a minute, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. So Volkswagen popped into my head, and how
Yeah.
the testings. What was that? What
The emissions.
the emissions?
The emissions
yes.
test, yeah.
That was a few years ago.
So they got away with the test. They passed the test. Is that
No,
what
they
happened?
lied.
Oh,
They
they
s-
just lied. They
Yeah,
didn't even
they
do a
straight
test.
out lied saying our emissions are this much. When they weren't.
Wow.
Emma's
I don't remember
doing a
specifics,
Devin.
but-
She's just saying a fact and then just making us believe, and she doesn't know if it's true or
To
not.
be honest with you, she didn't make it believable.
They lied.
They lied.
Not buying it, CJ.
Nah, mate. If we were playing poker, I'll be going all in right now. 'Cause I think she's bluffing.
It's a double bluff. He doesn't want you to believe it.
Killed it.
Let me see.
Himself, brilliant.
She's trying to find out the information right now.
But then there's loads of stuff with car manufacturers. they always say the range of a car is X miles. Like say, I don't know, 600 miles. But if you drive the car, you rarely get what it says
Yeah.
on the on the book when it comes out. And it's just because it's just everything's so controlled for the perfect condition, and they state all that in the small print, but no one really cares.
Yeah,
you know,
no one
one looks at it enough to
Who
be like, oh,
literally
okay.
reads the small print other than me if it's insurance based because that's my job, but anything else, nah.
Yeah.
So even that, looking at like OxyContin, I have no idea, but given their past, I bet there's going to be some small text somewhere saying about the possibility for addiction and all that kind of stuff to people they give it to.
Yeah,
Thinking of small text terms and conditions in a general sense, do you think there should be more of a responsibility on companies to make those, like, obviously there's got to be a lot of things that go into terms and conditions and stuff, but at the same time there's important stuff that consumers should know. But do you know anyone, literally anyone, who reads terms and conditions
Have you seen
for
those American
every
ads for the drugs? They do the ad and then at the end they're like, do not use it, blah blah blah
Yeah.
blah 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 blah.
the screen just goes writing and it's moving that.
Like they try and they rattle off everything on their ads.
How do you find that happy medium of, well, we've got a lot of information, extra information you should know, we have to get that to you, but like you should know it, so it shouldn't just be small text. Do you think
Maybe
there
we
is
should
a
have
happy
someone
medium?
else read it and then say, I think this is what's important for the public to know. But not everyone's going to read it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the last time. I've tried to read terms and conditions. It's not easy.
Where did you get up to? Like how many paragraphs deep did you get?
The mortgage one I read word for word,
It's-
like
That's right.
twice over.
When I get a mortgage, I'm bringing it to Emma.
Well, yeah, when I
What am I
when I
signing?
worked in the bank, I had to know the terms and conditions on the products that I was working with because that's what my job was, to investigate these loans and that. But for my own case use, I'm one of those people who it's the same as if I click on an article. If I start reading it and then I scroll a little bit and I see that scroll bar is tiny, I'm done. Like I'm
Yeah.
not even investing my
Or
time
you
into
just
it.
skip to the main parts. Like you just skip through the privacy use parts. Okay, you probably do the right thing, or will you? I don't know. But
Wow.
I mean, you say that. That's the reason the EU legislation's come out, isn't it? It's the reason all these companies now are sending new statements to you to approve because of they realised that the privacy section wasn't adequate. What companies were putting out there wasn't adequate to customers' needs. But who would, unless these cases come out, we would never know because no one, you don't have that time. But just thinking about like Big Pharma, when they're putting their pharmaceuticals out, given that I would guess there are a lot of different medications that have the potential for things like addiction or overdosage causing certain side effects in that. Where should the responsibility fall for you knowing that and them being responsible?
So you just be up. I reckon you just be upfront. You go. These are the these are the side
doctors
effects.
say that, hey, they're supposed to.
But these are the side effects, right? But there's a chance that you'll get better. But these are the side effects.
Yeah, most doctors.
And you let them choose. I think you like when you get hoodwinked, like when people trick you into taking a product. I think that's where people are like, "All right, man." Like if you told me, and I knew, and I went into it still, then it's like it was on me. But if you hide it, you're like, no, I'm coming after you now. That's what I mean. Like if it's more transparent, I think people are scared. But if people are in a position where they have no other option, they're gonna take that risk. Whereas people that maybe have a choice.
Maxie's face.
Yeah.
No.
You were like,
It wasn't that. I think it was. I was trying to get my thoughts together as well.
okay.
But I think you're right, and I think there should be a higher level where because there's companies that will just go after more vulnerable people in society, and there's some people that are in a more vulnerable position which will make bad decisions because they're in that position. So it needs to be the job of someone to say, like, if a company goes in and they say, by the way, this is a drug, you feel really good, but you're probably going to get addicted to it for the rest of your life. A lot of people make a bad decision on that. and the government or someone need to step in and say, no, we're not letting people get exposed to this.
Yeah.
In the same way that there's so many drugs that are illegal. There's so many drugs that are illegal which people choose to make them. There's still loopholes that people have to jump through to like make it available to society. So it's the tough question is like when like what you said about people say the side effects, that technically should happen already.
Yeah.
But then this company knows that should happen, and what they've done is they tried to play down the side effects a little bit. So how do we stop that from happening? And it's that thing where there's a balance between, if you had a system where it was perfect and no bad drug ever got out, that means for that to happen, you would have to completely stifle the industry. You like kill all innovation, you'll kill all motivation for people even to make money in it, and it will just completely slow down any progress. But then if you just left it open completely, progress would probably be amazing, but you'll kill a load of people at the same time. So it's like, where do we draw the line, and where's the happy?
Right.
And even if you think from a testing standpoint, like you take the FDA, who are going to test all these different drugs, like if your company's focused on making one drug, then their knowledge of that drug is hugely vast. If you're a company who has to test a multitude of drugs, you can only have surface level ability to test, like you don't have the time to invest into one specific drug to test. Like you're always going to be behind as a testing facility.
I don't think that they should have been allowed to do this though.
This is
after being found guilty of
also,
lying.
Sorry, that's the original question.
But what if they're the only company which has the knowledge to help get people off this
to
drug?
treat it? Yeah.
Then what do you do?
I think there has to be an accountability of, all right, so you filed for a patent for a treatment, which means you obviously think you have the treatment. Okay, well, I don't know how you would legally do it, but as punishment for your actions in the past, you still have to produce this, or you have to fork it up and give it to someone else.
Yeah, and you shouldn't get.
But if you produce this yourself, you can get profit.
Okay, so then let's say then that did happen. Then next time a different company comes along and they get everybody addicted to a different drug, and they know that if they've invested any money into coming up with a treatment, they're going to get zero back. Why would they do it?
Easy.
How do you force them to do it?
Claim bankruptcy, open up a different company, and then sell the new drug.
Exactly, because when you think about a company, all it is a big group of people working under a name, right? Why can't they just change the name and have a different big group of people? You just need the right people at the top.
So how do you keep the incentives to find the treatments while minimizing the profit somehow?
Yeah.
Which seems seemingly an impossible task.
I think the barrier has to be when you get the companies addicted. I think once you go past them, the treatment one has to be like, I think the only thing we should stop people doing is like profiting off of like
their own
hurting people, if you know what I mean. If that's all we can do, if we start telling people that even if you do come up with a good solution, we're not giving you money because we don't trust you, and you're not allowed to like thrive in this industry, it can kill an industry.
This is Dev's article actually. Scientist robbed of Nobel in 1974 finally wins $3 million physics prize and gives it away. No, basically with this story, Jocelyn Burnell is responsible for one of the most important astrophysics discoveries of the 20th century, the radio pulsar. The discovery she made as a graduate student earned a Nobel Prize in 1974. But I think it was her boss or her tutor or whoever.
Professor
that actually got the prize. I think he did something, but he wasn't the one that actually discovered the radio pulsar. So basically,
he helped building the telescope or something, I think.
Yeah. So basically, years and years and years and years and years on, she got like a sort of a higher one to the award that he got, and ended up being about $3 million. She's giving it away to those groups that you've already mentioned.
Honestly, it reminds me of prison.
Hey,
and how
does it remind you of prison?
I'll tell you what. It reminds me of the instances where people are wrongly accused, and then decades later they get found innocent with newer technologies of evidence, and then the city awards them X amount of money, and your question there is, does that make up for what's happened? Like, is
No.
money
No.
and recognition many decades later, does that make up for the fact that it didn't happen when it was supposed to happen?
It doesn't make
No.
up for
So
it.
with her
But
prize, she got money, she got more money, and it's great. But does that make up for the fact that, well, for the last 40 years, she wasn't recognized for something that she 100% should have been recognized for? And that's her life. Like, it doesn't matter about
at least it finally
the
happened.
fact that she got money
but
later, how much time.
She
that she
obviously
spent in
didn't
her
care.
life.
She obviously
What could
didn't
have been?
care about the money because she gave it away. But her persistence, like to go and
Well, the recognition, like it could have opened so many more doors if she was actually recognized that back in the day. Like,
Yeah.
imagine what she
She
Oh,
did care
care
at the
what she
okay.
time.
got
I don't mean
funding
to say
to
she
do.
didn't care now. She did care at the time.
yeah,
Mm.
okay.
Yeah,
On the
and
way
how
the
many?
story's written.
How many? So I'm assuming this was because she was a woman at the time. I don't know. But I'm guessing that's why she wasn't recognized. I thought that was an integral part of the story. I may be wrong, but let's just say it is because she was a woman. Then how many other women potentially could have been in this field, but due to lack of recognition and stuff, they were less motivated, or they had less access, or less doors were open for them? How much more information could we have as a society because of preventing things like that?
It's like that movie,
What movie?
Hidden
In the figures,
Figures. The NASA one with the black women.
the mathematicians.
Oh,
Oh yeah, in NASA.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
I was
How do you know it's like the movie?
I'm very
But I know what
intrigued.
it's
That's
about.
why I turned. But
Do you know the name of the movie? You haven't watched
It's called
this movie.
Hidden Figures. They were the
Oh, what is it?
engineers, weren't they?
I think
They
Women
I think they're
figures.
doing the maths
hidden
already
hidden
out.
figures.
The math?
Oh, Hidden Figures.
It's the black women
yourself
that
have
were
some-
like,
I think
the
they're
backbone of
mathematicians.
the NASA projects
I
back
haven't
in the
watched it
day,
either.
and they were never recognized.
I heard it was a good movie.
Yeah.
I think in this story specifically, I think it's like I have to sign something at my university that when I was at university, if I come up with anything, it's owned by the university and not me.
Yeah.
I think in this story, it's actually
Wow.
just how the system is, but I think there is a link between women because there's so many times you hear about big inventions come out with it was a woman that actually came up with it and it was a man that took credit, like Rosalind Franklin with DNA. As
I had no idea.
Yeah, right.
you had no idea.
No.
I just got up some now as well, like some other ones of like it says 15 like women that come up with like big inventions. It's not written very. There was someone called Margaret Knight made a paper bag machine, and then two people literally said, "Oh, let me have a look at your machine." And then 2 months later, she tried to put in a patent for it, and then it said, "Oh no, these guys have already got it," so they just stole it from her, like
No.
without even telling her or anything. And then she had no leg to stand on.
That's why I
because-
keep all my light bulb moments inside here.
Except when you blurt it out on the podcast.
Idea time.
Oh, we need to make that a segment. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
they've
if
been
it's
done
on a
to
public forum, no one
people
can
of color and women for many years. Like if you look at a lot of inventions as well, there's a lot of people of color and women who are responsible. But yeah, I always find the intrigue of where could we be if those people were lauded more, like if they were celebrated more.
Well, they'd be
we
given
could be decades
funding
ahead.
to do
I-
all sorts of.
I wonder how many of the. I reckon, like that Hidden Figures, I reckon a lot of their ideas were put through. It's just they didn't get the recognition. I think. I don't. I think a lot of the men got the recognition for it, but I think the ideas did go through.
Okay.
It's not
Okay.
just that. I think that because when you're a woman or you're someone of color, you look up for the people being scientists. You don't think you're one of them, so you don't do the science in the first place. I think there's a lot of people that just didn't even go near the field
Yeah, right.
because no one gets recognition in
Yeah.
their demographic. I think
Yeah.
it's hard to put say exactly how many things would have went through, but there's so much more potential we could have unlocked.
Yeah.
Well,
And
now we've
even-
got Neil deGrasse
Even if you look
Tyson.
at the problems they
opening
solve,
doors.
like say the Hidden Figures one, could it be a situation where the men are trying to solve a problem, the women are saying, "Hey, over here, there's another problem," but that problem that they identify never gets solved. The only time their ideas do get taken is when they solve the problem that the men want to solve. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm.
I think
So
we
in
finished
that
the
way,
movie.
their thoughts and their ideas can still be taken on but only when their thoughts and ideas cater to a specific area. Like what they want to focus their energy on may not have ever been given any sort of any light, or they
Yeah.
never had the time to invest in that because no one would listen to that.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, these are all ifs, ands, and buts, but it's just
Do you think we should have quotas?
Quotas for what?
Ooh,
Like so
question.
that if,
Diversity
for example, in engineering where I work, we have a target to get 20% of women in management. So we would hire people. A woman in our
That's good.
job is more likely to get a job than a man is. Do you think we should have that? And that happens
Aren't they
everywhere.
already
Like
doing
they
that
do
in
it
most-
for all demographics, like races. Like you can have areas of the country, areas of the world. Like in my university, if you come from a certain country, you could get a scholarship because you're from that country, but no one else can have it. Like, should that be allowed? Or should it be allowed? What do you think about it?
That's tricky because
I think
Everyone wants to be politically
they have that
correct
here as
before they say
well. No,
something.
they have that here as well with the
Yeah, I
Aboriginal
know.
people, where the jobs
Yes
are
and
only,
no.
don't they? Where
Yeah,
the
they
jobs
have
that you
that.
can only apply for certain jobs if you're Aboriginal, right?
I,
And
No,
it's
no, no.
great to give them that chance.
I think
What?
I think wait, sorry. I think it is good to break cycles. To break cycles in cultures. I think it is good in that respect, right? And give them the opportunity to to be the first person in their family to go to university, being their first person in their family to go to NASA or whatever. You know, like I'm just saying,
Mhm.
it will help
Future
the
generations.
cultures to see someone like you said. You know how you see that woman and no one, they looked at the higher scientists and they never saw a black woman or a, but letting other economic backgrounds and all that kind of stuff into different parts of society and universities and others, like it's good to see that bit of diversity. Yeah. I was trying to figure out how, because like sometimes we go off topic.
Yeah, I've noticed. I've been sitting here
have
in
you all seen
amazement going,
the
whoa.
race?
The
The race where it was done in America. There's a video that went viral where the teacher said, lined up all the students on this line on a field, and then they said, we're going to run a 100-meter race, and I'm going to hold, I think it was like $100 bill or something. The first person to get to me gets the money, and he stood 100 meters away. He said, all right, before we start the race, I want you to take a step forward if, and then put out scenarios. So like, I want you to take a step forward if you're raised in a 2-parent household. And those people would step forward. And then like there were several different things. And before the race started, you had these people scattered along this 100-meter distance. So some people were like at 90 meters already,
Oh,
whereas
wow.
some people were still at the start line because nothing had applied to them. And he said, you people at the front, you're excited because you're really close to come get this money. When I start the race, you've only got a few steps. But look behind you and see where some people are starting the race. He's like, this is how life works. That some people are so kind of like you're throwing the
That is
paper into the waste
really
paper basket.
that's
But this gives you like real perspective. Like he's
Yeah.
using real world situations
so
for that
good.
perspective.
so maybe you can do that. That explain it to people.
But I still think as much as you have those things, people are willfully ignorant.
Yes.
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 100%.
Yes.
And it's how do you? Unfortunately, in this particular the conversation of privilege, the people who are willfully ignorant are the people who have the most privilege.
Yeah.
So they're the ones who can actually affect change.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like you can be as aware as you want about privilege, but if you're at the back of the race, there's nothing you can do to change it.
No, but you can use that information to your advantage.
In that race. No.
Yeah. If you're at the back, how can you use that?
Yeah,
Unless you
like
can run
mindset. So if you know the
100
mindset of the privilege,
It's getting
you-
easier
and
in today's society.
you
Like,
can easily manipulate. Like if you understand the mindset of someone, you can manipulate anyone.
Well, it's,
Whoa.
How? If you
how
don't
do
have
you
the
do that?
access,
Tell that to
Kind of
somebody
words.
who's in
You,
Brooklyn
you,
right
you
now.
don't you don't need to
Who's,
tell someone that's privileged. Like you don't have to tell them, but you get into someone's head and you start Okay, this is the wrong side of my brain that's talking now. But you can manipulate anyone. I really believe that you can like make anyone believe. Like, how about that? All right, how about that Russian girl? She came all the way from Russia, right? Because she came from Russia. She's from Russia. Anyway,
She was a Russian girl that came from Russia.
she came and she was I think she was from a poor family in Russia, right? She came to America, and she tricked the high class, the high society people in America, in New York, actually in New York, in tricking they forked over close to $1 million to her because of all the promise of investment and who she was, and she lived the high life. She eventually got caught, but she knew how these people thought. Like, but what I'm saying, she only got caught because she didn't use the money for like to make money. She just used it to buy shoes and clothing and like live with the high life. But she broke into that society, not being part of that society, and took and fleeced them. She absolutely
You
fleeced.
said though before that story that anyone can do that to anyone, but it's not anyone can do it to anyone, is it?
I feel like if you put your mind to it, like you have to be thinking a certain way. But I think I genuinely think if you put your mind to it, like you keep saying, like Catch Me If You Can. You hear stories all the time. Like these people, if you put your mind to it, then you can achieve. Like someone saying you can't do it. Like bullshit. Don't tell me what I can't do.
All right. This is what I was talking about when we look at things from our perspective. You're saying this from a position of privilege, in the sense of where you're at in your life would never, like, you're not a millionaire, you don't have that network. You think with what the resources I have available to me, and with the time I have available to invest in those resources, I could do this. Someone in my position could do this. Anyone that I could rationally think about. But then there are people who are in situations where they don't have the resources available and they don't have the time to invest to get those resources because they're concentrating on surviving, for example. So to give a really wild example to really emphasize the point. So obviously this isn't necessarily applicable in today's day and age, but imagine you're someone who lives in the wild where there's wild animal and you spend your waking hours avoiding getting eaten by these animals. You may have the focus of, all right, I could build this and that and the other, but I don't have the time because my mental energy is being invested in survival right now. There are people in situations in the world where their mental energy needs to be invested in surviving day to day. Like,
just by the law of large numbers, like you can look at very individual cases, but if you say the law of large numbers is that if you take enough people, they're all gonna, like, the general way they act is the same regardless of who they are. But it's the act, like everybody act, no matter whether they're white, black, everything, based on the circumstances around them. So if everybody in the world has the same sort of instinct to do stuff like this, but they're all in different starting positions, the average is going to shift in the same direction for everyone. You're always going to have the same people at the bottom, because to get one group to overtake or catch up and be equal to another group, you have to somehow get every single person in that group to work harder or do more than the group above them. And to do that, you can't just continuously motivate individuals, because why can't the people do that to the society that's already ahead? You know what I mean?
Well, there's how about the shift in power, like world power?
Mm-hmm.
There's a shift now, isn't there? Like who China run like to have a lot of power now, because they.
You spoke to Alex said last week that now there was, what's the percentage of the top? It was 1% was earned by the top 25 people, and now it's 5 people.
It was something like 49. The richest 49 people in the world had the same wealth as the poorest 50% of the world, and it went down to like 8 people. So that now 8 people's wealth pulled together is equal to 50%. And this year it's probably less. Like it's probably 3 people, something. The wealth that 3 people have accumulated is equal to the wealth of the bottom 50%.
Yeah, the bottom's getting better, but the top's getting even further away. Basically.
Yeah. The wealth gap is massively, like, since the 70s, has dramatically increased. Like, what was the top 10% is now the top 0.01% or something stupid.
So are we saying that's it? Are we saying we just have to accept? Like, I don't understand. I I don't understand.
I think
Do
it's
we
all
just
going to
say
come down to
bad,
what we.
the privilege are just privilege now? Do we say we can never ever get there? I don't understand. Like, what the mindset? Like, what mindset do we have now? Do we just say we're stuck at the back here? Do we
Yeah,
just
there's always people fighting for change still, and there always will be people fighting for
no?
change
But
as long
like,
as
if
there's
the
inequality.
average keeps moving forward, are we just
I
fighting
think
to
All
stay?
based on hope that change
No, but are we
can
fighting
happen.
just to stay behind everyone? Is that what we're doing? Is that the whole point? To just stay in the
My
middle?
one is my fight, if I have to have a fight, is that everybody has like access to just the human rights. And after that, I think competition is good. But
Yeah.
I think the problem is when people are exploiting the vulnerable people in society, which is what's happened in a lot of places. I'm not talking about any specific race or gender or anything. Like if a group of people are vulnerable, people will come in and use that against them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think in my head, all I would like to strive for is the fact that everybody gets access to what we consider nowadays like human rights
Yeah. Sort
and
of raise the.
opportunities to do well. You know, they don't have to become. I think once you get to a certain amount of money, after that, it's
Yeah.
just competition. Like do what you want to
Yeah.
do, but everyone should have the opportunity to live a good life.
So get
'Cause
raise
we
the
have the
living
resources.
standard and the like the
Yeah, that's my
just
one.
everyone
So-
gets a chance.